All right, happy Monday. Hey, Michael Fraker, howdy do. uh, you're gonna see here on what was I guess the left part of the screen is a character sheet, and this character sheet is 40 some odd years old. In fact, I think it's actually it's a scan, so this digital copy is merely a day old. But this, I want to say the date is on here. Yep. Wow. So this is from Um, November 13, 1981. Unfortunately, is not mine. As far as I know, none of my old stuff is extant from this area. Hey, Croco, but this was from my cousin. So my cousin, well, two of them actually, came by up country, and we hung out for the weekend. And one of the things that they were doing was I don't know if you've had this experience with your grandparents or your parents, but as folks get older, they tend to want to clear out stuff. I remember my grandmother had a similar thing where suddenly it was like, I want to get rid of all the stuff in the house. I want to clean up. And I think their mom, my aunt, is going through something of that nature. So they had picked this time to come because they wanted to. They were in their basement of their mom's house. There was some boxes and things, and it's like, okay, one of my cousins lives in Texas, and he was coming down. Like, okay, I'm going to come up. I'm going to look through some of my boxes and do that. And so, in one of these boxes was a beat up basic D&D box, and inside that box was a whole treasure trove of stuff. And he was kind enough to leave it with me, but I didn't bring it with me because I don't have a good scanner here at home, but I have a scanner at Studio B. So what I'm going to do is maybe I'll make it a little project as I'm going to go through and scan like I did this. I just did it because I wanted to have something to show, but I didn't want to bring the box here and then I start to forget it and things, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there and I didn't want to, I just wanted to keep it all together. And I felt like if I kept it up there, then I'll have it up there to work on. And if I brought it here, it would get mixed up with my other stuff. But anyway, he had this box full of stuff, and some of the things he had in here was he had both the basic and expert rules, even though it was just a basic box. And I'm curious if his expert box is somewhere else. He said he didn't go through everything. There might be some other gems down there. But anyway, in this particular box was basic, expert, Keep on the Borderlands, Isle of Dread, a homemade dungeon map with keys, which I'm going to go through and maybe I'll update or do something with. I'll definitely get scanned in, maybe try to get it written up, and we'll see. Like I said, I'll turn it into something that could be fun. And some character sheets. My two male cousins who was over it. They have two sisters, and one of their sisters, at least in this box, had a couple of characters that she played. They said that their sister didn't really enjoy playing it, but she made a few characters. I don't know how long she played before she gave it up. She made a few characters. So one thing that happened was when they came to, I was already up at the house. They drove in. They're taking their stuff off, and they said, "Oh, we have something," and they kind of bring from behind their back like this box of D&D, and they said like, when when was the last time you played D&D? And my answer is like, I don't know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, right? Which I think was just kind of funny because I think at least one of them was expecting it to be like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen that in years. And I'm like, I see BX all the time. I see it all the time. It's not as it doesn't it doesn't have that same feeling of an ancient rediscovery. I think for me as it did for them, but it was they lit up and suddenly like we gotta play. Like, can we play? And then they're thinking, oh yeah, we gotta have. And it was funny because inside, and next time I go up, I'll scan their new character sheets, things that they made. But they actually had, so I guess he didn't have access at that time in the early to mid 80s to a double-sided photocopier. So he had actually made copies of the blank kind of character sheet and then taped the back and the front. So you had basically took two pieces of paper, right, one with page 1 and one with page 2, and put them together. So you had kind of the back thing, and there were a couple of blank ones of these still around. So they made. So I guess the thing was we had character sheets, and then it was, well, do you have dice? And I was like, I didn't bring my home regular dice, but I actually do have dice up there. Like, yeah, I got dice. And then it was about like, can we do this? Like, can we play this game? Can we, physically, like, just not physically in terms of like, can we figure it out, but like, do we have everything available to play? Right. And I was like, yeah. And like, they're like, well, can you run it? When was the last time you ran games? And I was like, last time I ran a game was Monday, Tuesday, was 3 days ago. So yeah, I think I can do this. And so we originally were going to play on Saturday, but then we were doing other stuff. We were playing some other board games. It was getting kind of later in the day, and I was thinking, you probably want to have, I want to have more time rather than less. So let's do it Sunday morning. We'll do it. That kind of gave me a little bit more time to figure out what was going on. I had my choice of BX or Keep on the Borderlands, or sorry, not BX, Isle of Dread or Keep on the Borderlands, and I went with the Keep. I just think it's a little bit of an easier setup. I have to read Isle of Dread some more, but I think one of the things with Isle of Dread is it doesn't have a home base type spot, at least not one that you run into right away. And I mean something with kind of all the fixings of home, or somewhere like the shops and all that. Like, yeah, there are places you can hang out and stay, but it's a little bit more on the outer edge of things. I think there may be one of the pirate things. There's a write-up, someone will say, no, in this hex or something, but my recollection anyway, and it hasn't been that long since I've peeked inside Isle of Dread, but I didn't really, I wasn't looking for that specifically last time, was that there aren't a lot of like, here's a keep kind of thing. Here's a place that's kind of got all of the amenities and where you could do things. It's more villages and then stuff like that. So I was kind of leaning towards the keep. Krakow says the keep is neat. Yeah, and look, I'm not... I understand a lot of, you'll hear, or you will, if you go out there, you'll hear a lot of different things about Keep on the Borderlands, right? Some people will swear by it. Other people will call it overrated. And there's a lot of things to like about it there. And it's got some faults, which I'll get into because I ran into, I want to say faults, maybe weaknesses is the right thing. Of course, you got to keep in mind it's 1980, 81, 79, whenever I don't have the date off the top of my head, whenever the Keep came out, right? So it's in that first, or maybe you want to call it second generation of dungeons that were coming out. If you have in the mid 70s, the really first ones coming out, and then you have TSR realizing, holy cow, people want these things, and then starting to put them out. So I don't know, you could put it in the timeline wherever you will, and wherever you put it. It's very early on in the design and thinking out process. So things they're laid out a certain way, right? And it's helpful for me that I'm pretty familiar with it. I certainly know in kind of the big picture what's going on, and a lot of stuff you can just, and I think you actually have to kind of just, I won't say hand wave, but you kind of got to customize. So I said, we'll go with the keep. And I gave him the standard. Well, first we went through and did our characters 3d6 down the line. One brother rolled really well for his stats, and the other brother rolled really poorly for his stats. So looking at comparatively, I said, okay, I'll let you re-roll. I'll give you a one shot to kind of re-roll, do your 3d6 down the line, and hopefully you'll get something more. Because it wasn't in something I would say was horrible. And if we had 4 or 5 other players, or 3 or whatever other players, and everyone kind of had stats that were sort of all over the place, I would have said like they're probably fine. But given his brother rolled really well, and there were like 2 of them, I was like, you know what, go ahead and re-roll your stats. I wasn't going to do anything like, I don't know, I wasn't going to change the algorithm and stuff, like do 46. I didn't do 46 drop 1 or whatever. I said, roll 3d6 and we're going to go. And I think part of the whole thing was getting into it was I really wanted to, I think they were kind of keen on, and I think I was keen on just giving them the sort of, that retro experience thing I hadn't done for 40, well, I guess this character here, Lightning, and we'll go through his character because I think it's pretty interesting too. A long time ago, I think the last thing I saw in there was 1985. So we're talking 40 years ago. It was maybe the end, maybe it was the cutoff, right? So give them back that experience, because I thought about, well, I could play my system, and I would love to play with them at some point, knowing that they both are enjoying it. But I just wanted to play. Like, we're going to play BX. I did decide to make them level 3 because there are only 2 of them. I didn't want to put a bunch of hirelings in the mix. So I said, what, it's a 1 to 3 adventure. There's only 2 of them. I'll let them go through 3rd level. I just found on my iPad. What I did was I found on my iPad. I couldn't find one. Maybe there's a good resource. Somebody knows a good resource out there for quickly leveling up characters. There's no guidance. I couldn't find on, hey, if you're creating a level 3 character. It might have been in the expert set. I had a lot going on, trying to walk them through character generation, trying to keep the energy and the momentum going. So I'm not trying to get bogged down looking through a bunch of stuff. But there was a point where I said, okay, I'll start you up at 3rd level. And I just wanted to get an idea of really most of the gear. It's like, what do 3rd level characters have? So I found some online generator that could generate 3rd level characters. So I basically put in, so one of them's playing an elf, and his name is Xerxes. And his brother is playing a magic user named White Lightning. And you'll see here that this character was his character in the ancient past was named Lightning, so we wanted to make White Lightning. And there's a kind of a funny aside here. we both lived in Houston for a long time. He still lives in Texas. He had this car. It was an older diesel Mercedes Benz. I don't remember the model, but it was, even at the time, it was kind of old, and it was white, and it was slow. So I nicknamed it White Lightning. Obviously the joke is it's like, it's the opposite of lightning. It's like in Zootopia where they named the sloth Flash, right? It's like this thing is slower than molasses. I go White Lightning, and then finding out that he had a PC named Lightning all those years ago was kind of natural. He's like, yeah, this one's White Lightning, and he explained that white being the highest form of lightning. Like, all right, so you got White Lightning and Xerxes. So I found some generator where I could put in a magic user, tell it to give me third level, and then just hit it. And unfortunately, the generator did not generate anything magical or awesome for the magic user, but for the elf, it did end up generating a magic +1 dagger and plate and a shield. So I just kind of outfit them with that. I gave them a few silver pieces off the top of it, but very few, because I think one of the things you want to do is you don't want to make it easy for them to kind of hang around town. You want to make them kind of feel in the pocketbook of, if we sit there and we take a night in the inn, we're broke. Like, I think you want to keep them on that sort of, like, you're on the edge of being broke, at least to start, and until they kind of get a handle on things. So I just kind of gave them that equipment. We went through and did spells, and this is going to be key. I suggested, well, a couple things. Languages they did, and I took the list of languages that's basic, and I said, well, here's all the ones, and there's like 18 or some languages on there. And I kind of was highlighting, saying, okay, these are probably the ones you want to be, are probably better for you. It was like kobold, goblin, orc, bugbear, ogre, I think is one of the ones. I'm like, yeah, those are probably the ones you want to get. And I said, you probably want to get, different ones, unless you have a bunch of bonus ones. You probably want to spread it out so that you have the chance to talk to more things. And I think not lightning, Xerxes spoke goblin, which ended up being key. And I think White Lightning took kobold as their other language. And then for spells, I did a similar thing. I said, here are the first, and I think Lightning or White Lightning, the third level magic user, had a second level spell and 2 first level spells. So I think he took Mirror Image, Sleep, and Charm. And I didn't have any real suggestions for second level. I kind of thought, some of the, invisibility, I think is not bad. Some of the detection stuff can be useful situationally. He hasn't played D&D tabletop since the mid-'80s, but he did play some of the video games. He was a big Neverwinter Nights player for a while. He's played some of the other things. So I think he saw Mirror Image, and maybe from a video game, he's like, oh, Mirror Image, and he took that. But then he did take Sleep and Charm. Oh, my camera's about to die. Why does my camera keep going to sleep? Stop that. Stop going to sleep. Okay. So he took, and then Xerxes took Charm. I think Magic Missile. Wanted to take Magic Missile, and again, I think it was more for seeing in video games and other things. Magic Missile being something to take, so he wanted to take. So I was like, fine, so great. So it was a pretty easy setup. It took a little while, but we got him set up. Krago says, don't even need a spell for Mirror Image unless you're a vampire. But boom. We got them all set up, and they were raring to go. We did get started late. This is one of those things, like, we were kind of tired. People were sleeping in, so we didn't get it. We didn't quite get the early start that I might have been hoping for. And then I started them off outside the keep. Walking, the classic. You're following the road, and you're going up, and there's the keep. And there's actually which I don't know if I just haven't read it in forever. I don't even know if I must have read it when I did the basically cover to cover read through of Keep on the Borderlands ages ago. But I had forgotten that the kind of setup that you get is pretty specific. Like, there are these things, a Cave of Chaos. I think you don't know where they are, but they're out. Like, you're coming. You kind of have more of a purpose than I had remembered. It's not just that you just kind of show up on this keep this keep on the Borderlands, so to speak. But you actually, if you read and maybe I can bring it up actually. Well, let's see. Yeah, let me get out of that. I'm pretty sure I have the downloaded of course I should have gotten. I have the print on demand, or not the print on the PDF from drive-through. If I can find it. Let's see. It's not there. Where is it? Let me see if I can find it really quick. I'll do it. If I can't find it, then I won't. But I should have it. I got to go to documents. Where's my documents? Anyhow, you actually get a pretty good. You get more direction than I had remembered getting, I guess, is the ultimate thing. I'd forgotten about it. I was like, oh, you do kind of, okay, you're getting, there's more, there's definitely more background. Here we go. So this is just a case of chaos. So if I zoom up here and we go to, where am I looking here? Page up. Whoops. Oh, I didn't know that. I just learned a new shortcut. Didn't know. Page up. Page up. Okay. Can I view this in book mode? Should be able to view. Book view. Oh, you zoomed way over there. Okay. So if you look here at this intro, and I didn't read the intro super much, but it says, let's see, where is it? Hold on a minute. Just gotta. Okay, that is the front. So we got the keep. Welcome to Mandalay Nation. Blah blah blah. Time. Blah blah blah. Okay, background. Right. So this is kind of the intro. And again, I just gave them the bare minimum because I'm not huge on those super long intro texts, and I was just saying to me, my angle was. My thinking was like, we're just kind of playing this, kind of as a gag, right? They just really wanted to play it. So all they need to know is there's these caves of chaos around, and you've come to this keep kind of thing. But there's pretty good bit here where it gives you sort of a world overview with, the realm of mankind is narrow and constricted. It's kind of a great phrase. Always the forces of chaos press upon its borders, seeking to enslave its populace. I'm just going to come down a bit here, right? Blah, blah, blah. Bold adventures from the realm sent off for the borderlands to seek their fortune. It is these adventurers who, provided they survive the challenge, carry the battle to the enemy, right? So this is kind of like, this is you are, and there it says it. You are indeed members of that exceptional class, adventurers who have journeyed to the keep in search of fame and fortune. Of course you are inexperienced, but you have your skills and a heart that cries out for adventure. All right. And then, you get sort of more that this is almost, especially down here, kind of box text for your intro, right? Ahead up the winding road atop a sheer walled. I'm guessing that means wall. I think they mean walled. Mount of stone looms the great keep. Here, at one of civilization's strongholds between good lands and bad, you will base yourselves and equip for forays against the wicked monsters who lurk in the wilds. Somewhere nearby, amidst the dark forests and tangled fens, are the caves of chaos, where fell creatures lie in wait. All this you know, but before you dare adventure into such regions, you must become acquainted with other members of your group. Excuse me. For each life will depend upon the ability of the others to cooperate against the common foe. Now, before you enter the grim fortress, is the time for introductions and exchange of information, for fate seems to have decreed that you are to become an adventurous band who must pass through many harrowing experiences together on the path which leads towards greatness. So there you go. So that's kind of your background, and they give you some more start info, but I had not really thought about it, or I had forgotten that you pretty much know, you are meant to start off with the idea that that there are these things, and that the name, they're called the Caves of Chaos, and that they are nearby. So I just kind of gave them that same information, more or less. I like the idea here, just as an aside, about, here you do your intros, but that this kind of concept that you're fated to be together, which is a little bit of sort of saying, like, you're not just, maybe you met by happenstance, but you are part of a larger whole, right? You, even if you are, you are some edgy loner, you have found your companions, and, hint, hint, sort of treat them as such. So they got them into that. So we just we came out in the keep. I gave them some of the rumors, and one was kind of fun. Something that also came out about these rumors. This must be pretty popular, those caves. Yeah, a lot of people seem to know about the caves, but nobody knows where they are. I mean, there's some funny stuff about this. When you start to think about it, you start to break it down. It's like, okay, there are these caves of chaos that are nearby, and when you look at the map, they're pretty darn near, because I think the entire caves of chaos fits within this whole region, I should say. Which, do I have it here? Where is it? It must be on the back. you're talking. It is. It is. Where are we? Where is the other map? If we come down to this other map. Oh, and this is also cool. One of my cousins used the space and did draw in their own floor plan. So I'll have to look at that also. Where's the map for the wilderness drive-through? Don't tell me. It's got to be here, right? It's got to be here somewhere else. Scroll up. We can bound to find it. Here we go. All right. So each one of these squares in here, one square equals 100 yards. So how many 100 yards in a mile? How many yards in a mile? How many yards in a mile? I think I'm getting 1,760 yards to a mile. So that means if each one of these is 100, then so basically 17 and a half, say 18 of these is 1 mile, right? So now we can do something kind of fun. We can actually just count. So if we just count from one to the other, I want to say it's like 21 or something across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, no, it must be more than that. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. Okay, so 40. So there, maybe it's, I don't know what else kind of. So like 40 and then there's more. But even that 40 is, 17 and a half. What's 17 and a half divided? What's 40 divided by 17 and a half? Yeah, so it's 2.25 miles, let's say, more or less across, and it's probably maybe 3 down. So all this can fit in a very small area, right? Not very large. It's not even enough. I think one of the reasons why, I always felt like one of the reasons why you don't really get into the travel mechanics that are in expert sets. One, because it's more of a beginner thing. They mean you to play this with basic. And two, this is all especially if you're using a 6 mile hex. This is all well within 1 hex. So you're not, all this stuff going on is just within one hex, right? So I know that. So I had them start off right outside the keep, just like that, names and kind of who they are, and okay, great. And they go in the keep. Oh, and I also gave them some rumors. And like I said, the rumors, there's just some funny things here, right? And I have to say that a lot of this stuff, it's interesting because, so I didn't pre-read it. So I was basically running it from the book, just from my own imagination from the jump. I probably had an opportunity. I could have sat there and in the evening or something and tried to prep it up, but we're hanging out and I wasn't going to go put myself apart, kind of do that. So I didn't really have time to prep it. So I'm going off of whatever's in this book that I can get my eyes on, and there's whatever's in my brain at that moment, and maybe some memory and things like that. And that's it. So I'm running this from the book. And so, I've often talked about, and I think this is definitely something that I struggle with, and something I have to be cognizant about, is that reading versus running. So this is definitely a situation where different things occur to me because I'm actually running it, as opposed to what I would get if I was reading it. So the rumors and stuff, it's like when I read it, I'm just kind of going through like, oh, these are great. But now I'm I'm playing with it, and some funny things about the rumor tables jump out at me. So, for example, one of the rumors they got, which is false, is that Briark is Goblin language for resurrender, right? Which is funny. And then it was interesting because I gave that rumor out to the one cousin, but then his brother, his characters speak Goblin. So I automatically just told him it was fake. I said that you heard, looking at one, I'm like, you heard that Briark means we surrender in Goblin speak. But then I said, but and I looked at the other brothers like, but that doesn't true because you speak Goblin, and you know very well that Briark does not mean surrender. So that was kind of a funny, just a little like, oh, okay, we got this rumor. It almost is good because it enlightened the fact that these rumors might not all be true, and they just got this verification that like, yeah, some of these are going to be wrong, and some of these are not going to be at least 100% accurate. And that one's like, it's a 50-50 thing, basically. Is Briark Goblin? Yeah, because in the module they have the Goblin saying Briark. Does it mean we surrender? No. So it's kind of half true, right? Some of these other ones they were getting so one of them that they ended up getting a little. So they went in. I gave them the rumors. Briark was one of them. I think I got this one. Yeah, this was the other one they got off the bat. Tribes of different creatures live in different caves. And so here's the interesting thing, right? This reminds me, what was it? There was that scene in the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Johnny Depp's character, right? Captain Jack Sparrow is sitting in the jail and he's talking to somebody, and the guy's giving him all like the Black Pearl never keeps survivors or something, right? No one lives or whatever to the Black Pearl. And he's like, and his character says, well, if nobody lived, like how'd the rumor come? And it's just that little funny thing of like, well, yeah, it can't totally be correct, because if it was totally correct and nobody who saw the Black Pearl ever lived, then nobody would really know anything. There would be no information. It would be a black hole, basically, right? No information escapes the black hole. And if the Black Pearl, no information escapes after contact with the Black Pearl, then there would be no information out there. So the fact that rumors and information about the Black Pearl exists means that someone or some people must have had experienced the Black Pearl and lived to tell about it. And of course, later it turns out that he used to be the captain of the Black Pearl, so it's kind of case in point. He has definitely been to the Black Pearl and off again and all that kind of stuff. Croco says that sentient rumors spread themselves, proliferate. That would actually be kind of fun. So you get these things where no one knows where the Caves of Chaos are, right? Nobody knows. Yet these rumors are coming back. Like somebody, so you have this rumor, tribes of different creatures live in different caves. And you think, okay, and that's definitely right. It's one of the ones that's marked as true. We know it's true if you've read Caves of Chaos or anything. It's like, yeah, that's definitely true. But who found that out? But so how do these rumors all rumors end up getting back to the keep, but not the location of the actual caves when it's not even that far away? It's not like it's a week's march and people are stumbling back half dead and they say it's somewhere to the northwest, but I don't know and I can't tell. It's just like, no, it's 2 miles. It's a mile away. It's a mile and a half. It's right there. It's just really, I know, and I know that's one of the things that people will grouse about, that things are so close to each other. And given the terrain, it's not even that's so bad. I mean, Studio B, where I was hanging out with my cousins, you're in all these little New England towns, these Massachusetts towns that are all in basically these valleys between hills. So you can have 2 towns that, as a crow's fly, may only be a couple miles away, but it feels a lot more, or just 2 parts of a town. Your house is on one side of the hill, my house is on the other side of the hill, and yeah, we're in cars, so we drive. And like Studio B, it's on the side of a hill. It's like, oh, we could drive, and they go along, drive over. But if you imagine not having that, just if you were living in the 1800s, in the it's 1825 or maybe even 1926 or 1826. Then being on the other side of the hill feels like it's forever away. Like, what would you ever know about that? You would maybe know about it if you climbed to the top of the hill and then surveyed. But other than that, it's like that being on the other side of the hill, it might as well be another galaxy. Like, I get that, right? But the fact that these rumors are coming back, and yet no one, if I would have thought, well, if I had a rumor about that house on the other side of the hill, someone would have said, like, well, where did this happen? It's like, yeah, on the other side of the hill. Like, it's, maybe not exactly, but they would know, like, yeah, it's kind of over here. So it's just kind of funny that you have these rumors that are the idea that they're not really based in the fictional reality, because you couldn't have 20, to me, I don't think 20 pieces of information on something that is really close, and yet nobody knows. Like, well, somebody's got to know something. Mr. Rourke says, so I'm coming up with a lawful evil ice monster. Once every 6 rounds, you can do a special deport to home. It teleports the target back to their home, the creature's home or that person's home, because if it's that person's home, they might thank him for it. So in any case, so those are kind of funny, right? So you get these, they didn't really put it together. They didn't put it together, really. They weren't thinking about it, but I was thinking about it. I'm like, that's kind of funny. Like, all these things are coming up, but nobody knows nobody knows what the caves are. It's kind of interesting. And of course, you could put it down to what would it, conspiracies, right? We do have that, there's an evil high priest or something floating around the keep. They didn't encounter them, but you could do some things like that. But it's just it's a funny thing. So they got a couple rumors, and then they did what I think a lot, and it was, so there were a couple things that were definitely funny. So one of the brothers, both brothers have played some of the video game things. One of the brothers is much more up to date on their video game playing. He's played a bunch of Skyrim. I think he's played some Baldur's Gate 3. And one of the things was him trying to go power up his weapons. He's like, I've got because I gave him their equipment off of this generator. I'm like, here's your kit. Like, you've got, I think he ended up with He had a warhammer, a plate and shield, and a magic dagger. And so one of his first things he wanted to do was to go like, can I go somewhere and boost my my weapon? And I'm like, what do you mean? What does that mean, boost? He's like, can I make it magic? Can I do something? I was like, no, that doesn't. No boosting. There's no like leveling up. There's no making it magic. Like nobody boosts. He says everyone knows where they are, but they're just protecting the PCs like children. I mean, that could be true. That could be true too. It's like all these silly adventures. I mean, maybe it's a whole scam, right? It was like that. What was that? That was that Janelle Jacquet's adventure. Is it the one with the tower where there's a town and the town is basically just a cover for the cult, and so they just kind of humor people, but then I think they poison them or try to knock them out in the night. Yeah, they could be a whole scam where the keep just wants to keep making money from adventures coming. So they kind of play dumb, let the adventures go and expend themselves in the wilderness, and then keep spending money. I mean, that was Benny's plan in the Brendan Fraser, the Mummy movie, right? He wanted to keep taking people out the desert looking for Hymenoptera, and then abandoning them and keeping the money. But then finally, the one group wised up and only gave him half his money. So yeah, there could be some scheming like that, but just by default, it's just it's a funny assumption. So there was I had to say, no, you can't, no boosting, none of that kind of stuff. It's, Dark Tower. Thanks, Croco. Yeah. No boosting, not stuff. Like, you got what you got. You got to find what you got to find. Okay. But they were kind of, and then I think they also went to the bar and they bought a drink, and I think they got another rumor from the bartender, which might have been this one. I think it was Piles. Yeah, I think they got this one. Piles of magic armor. No, it wasn't that one because they had already explored a bit when they got that one. Maybe they got another one. Where was it? Was it the? It might have been the one about the merchant. Where's the merchant? It might have been the merchant being imprisoned. Which is this is the one I think that really struck me. It's like a merchant. The rumor is a merchant imprisoned in the caves will reward his rescuers, and this is a true rumor. How do you find that out? Like, who told whom? And so this got me to an idea, and I'll probably do another video or something. I think it's an interesting idea. What I think would make these a lot better if I was going to level these up, if I was going to come through and prep these things, right, for another thing, what I would do is I would tie these to people. So here you just have these generic rumors that kind of anybody can know, and you do it. And I'm not even saying that you take away the fact that anybody can know them, but I think you tie them to people. And what I mean by that is, okay, you have a merchant who's imprisoned in the caves who reward his rescuers. Instead of just having that as just at face value, what you do is you tie it to someone. So there was a merchant. So what happened? If you look at the road, let's go back to that road map. Oh, no, it's not it. Well, let me just see. Let's go. If you look at the road, so okay, here we go. If we zoom in here, we look at this road. You have this road, which is kind of another funny thing, right? And beyond this, it's just chaos. And yet you have this road that kind of goes do and goes off the map. It's like, well, if it's just crazy town after this keep, why do we have a road going through there? I mean, I know they're just being a little bit hyperbolic, but it's another one of those things like, well, how? Obviously, I mean, it kind of plays into the post-apocalyptic sort of scheme a little bit. That yes, there used to be more things above here, but at least this stretch of road is now desolate, right? Nobody goes through there because otherwise, it just wouldn't have the same vibe, right? You want to kind of have this vibe of this keep being the last bastion of the realm, but the road goes ever on and on. Yeah, Crocker says the survivors of the merchant caravan. Right, that's exactly it. So my idea was that instead of just having this rumor of, hey, there's a merchant in the caves who will pay for their rescue, which again, you have to think about if you just take it as face value on its own. And it is true. How does anybody know that? Who was there? Was somebody also a prisoner in the caves? And the merchant told them, hey, buddy, if you ever get out of here, I will reward you or anybody else who can come rescue me. And those people said, all right. Then they escape. Don't rescue the merchant. Somehow make it back to town, but forget where the caves are. Given that the caves are not that very far away, and given that the caves are not even very far off the road here, it's like, how did this, like, who? But it makes a lot more sense if there was some caravan making their way from wherever, parts unknown, the wherever, and then gets down here, gets clobbered, and then somebody escapes. A guard, it could be anybody, escape. and they make it down to the keep, and maybe they're here licking their wounds. Maybe they're broke, or maybe they have some money enough to get themselves in the booze. And so you connect that rumor to a person, and then that NPC can have, you could play around the NPC. So I was thinking in retrospective, what if there was a guard and that guard escaped, but they escaped because they kind of were a coward. They ran away when they should have been protecting the merchant with their life. They ran away. And now they're there, and they maybe at first they tried to lead a party back, but they couldn't, and so now they're kind of here with this sitting there, and so you get the rumor. It's like, oh yeah, that guy Bob the guard over there, Bob the warrior, whatever. Yeah, he was working for this merchant, and he's sure, right? He knows that they took the merchant, and if the merchant still lives, I bet he'll reward you. Like he's been trying to get people to go back with him to search. And and he's sure that the merchant has vast resources back in parts unknown or elsewhere, and that if we can get him back, he'll be sure to do that. And so great. So not only is that, it feels a little bit more fleshed out. It makes a little more sense in the world if anybody starts to question, like, well, who knows? Why do they know that there's a murder? Anything? This guy, he was there. He saw them drag him off, and they didn't see him kill. We don't know if he is alive. That part you kind of play with, but if he is alive and you get him, I'm sure he'll pay him. And then you can have angles with that guard, right? One of the things I was thinking, okay, this guard's a coward, so he's not going to be helpful to the party when you're traveling. Like any fights, he's going to hang back. He's not going to fight, and that'll become, that can become a fun thing about, well, how's the party deal with this guy who's potentially a drain on their resources? You guys spend rations, you're keeping him around, and yet he's not fulfilling as much. You could have fun with it. Like, well, he's holding back. He's not really getting in the mix, or he's waiting till it's almost finished, and then he's coming in. You can have fun with that. And then if you do find the merchant, maybe then the guard tries to jump to the front and say, I saved you and all this stuff. And the party's left going like, what the heck? We did all the work, and now he's taking the glory. It could be fun. Or you could play it straight up, or you could play it some combination, or you could play something else. But it gives you something to play with, some more tools in your toolbox, if you will, than just this kind of weird rumor that you're wondering, like, who the heck discovered that this guy was out there in the woods or in the caves, and the reward thing, because it doesn't really, it just doesn't really follow. Like, why does that make sense? But again, it's a lot of this stuff is, some people are they're not even gonna bother with it. And I didn't think about it multiple times, but playing it this time just made me aware of, like, oh, that's an interesting. And if they did ask, like, well, how do you know this? I'd have to be like, I'm not sure how I know. Who told? That's the other thing. It's like, well, who told you, right? The bartender says all the cave entrances are trapped. It's and you got to ask, well, who told you that? I think it's even a good thing as a party, like, who told you that? Like, where did you get this information from? And so you have something like, oh, it's that guy said so. But of course, that also, if you want to make the discovery of the caves a big thing, then having all these people who've been to the caves and back kind of minimizes that a bit, unless you come up with then reasons as to why. And it could be something magical, which could be interesting. There's some effect on the caves. If you're away for any length of time, you lose them, which would be kind of interesting, which would put some pressure on the PCs. Though again, the players will remember, even if you say your PC doesn't remember. It's like, but I remember, so I'm just going to go look on the map where we looked. Something like that. There are probably some interesting things you can do with it. But I just thought it's just it was funny because it just came up to me as something like, well, that's kind of interesting. And I think there's maybe a better way in retrospect to do that. And I'll have to, because I think it's something I could use, just not just to, if I was going to tweet keeping the Borderlands, but just as a thing of, like, where is this stuff coming from? Who knows it? Who's the source? Like, what is their angle? Just a way for you to, it's almost a good way of just creating a web of NPCs to populate a place. Who knows these things that you want known or potentially known? Who knows them, and what's their angle? And what do they want for this info? And if they're giving it away to you, why are they giving it away? It might make sense that the bartender might be telling you some things, but you've got to think about, it's probably maybe out of the goodness of his heart, maybe not, maybe why. And you just have fun. You can have fun with it. Croco says they read the novelization for Keep on the Borderlands sometime, and it was all right. Yeah, I never read that one. I don't think I've read any of the novelizations, but so in any case, so they got some rumors, they got some info, they inquired about boosting, and I had to tell them, like, no boosts, just no boosts. You're going out there. You're going out there, and then they went out there, and they're like, okay, they had a couple of days worth of rations. And it's like, great, so we're going. So now was one of the issues I ran into a little bit because, and here's something. This is going to be funny. So on Friday, if you were hanging around on Friday, and we were talking about DCC, and DCC modules use a similar layout. In fact, theirs might be even more basic than this in terms of the formatting. And I found that this formatting for this stuff was just tough on me because when we're looking at that, the responses in the DCC subreddit to the idea that DCC formatting should be modernized, there's some people who were saying this is how we like it because we like to go through and we do this kind of prep and we'll go through and we'll do all this stuff and it works. And I think the response is along the lines of, well, that's great, I think, but what if you don't have a chance to do your prep part? Are you just kind of out of luck? And there was a little bit of, I think I'm just kind of out of luck because they leave the keep and I'm trying to scan this for rules I can follow and things. And it's just hard because you have to kind of read through all this stuff. I mean, yeah, they bold something like, okay, they bold for hunting and they do other things. They're just, it's a lot of this stuff is just kind of in line. It's, there's very, very little bolding of things. And it's just kind of hard to figure out. The other thing is that, so here's a funny thing, which I didn't really, I don't think I caught, but it says the caves in the unknown area is left for you to use as a place to devise your own cavern. Oh, that's for the unknown part. As far as the caves of chaos. Oh, so here we go. Naturally, they will be trying to find the caves of chaos, but this will take some time traveling. In the meantime, they might well run into more than they can handle. Right. So there are two maps, one for the caves themselves, one for the area map, and there are certain numbered spots on the map. I think one of the rumors they did get or heard about was the hermit. They heard about the hermit, I guess, this guy hanging out somewhere. But in any case, it's and it's interesting because this is a starter kind of thing. There's really no guidance for how do they, other than just, what's the phrase, like pixel, like basically going square by square, just by the book. There's no, there isn't a lot here. I mean, you look at the numbers. If we go and we pull this map over. Here we go. Pull this map up. We've got, here's one encounter area. We've got, where's another one? So that's one. There's one here. There's one down there. There's one down here. So that's, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that it? I mean, and that's the other thing too. You're looking at this book, and it's not easy to see these numbers. They're not. They didn't put a circle around them. There's, even me just looking at the map, and I'm trying to squint down and look at the map on the printed page. It's like, boy, where are those areas? And now they say, well, you could encounter something if you're within 6 squares of this thing. I think it was 6, and 6 is a lot, but still, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they got to come some square, something like this, around these areas. This one for these lizard folks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like just cuts to the river, basically. And this one, you're down here. So even though it's 6, you think, wow, 6 squares, that's a lot. It's really not. I mean, if you block these out, you still have a lot of area where there's essentially, I mean, nothing in it's nothing to run into. And this is not a hex map. These individual squares are not keyed, right? So it's just, I'm just giving what's on the tin, but basically by the book, if you just kind of hang out on the road and you're kind of going up and down the road, you'll meet nobody. You're not close enough. I guess the caves of chaos aren't numbered. I don't know if you're supposed to meet people if you get all the way up here, maybe you're supposed to, but there's nothing in the book that says you'll encounter anything. It's just like, you're not in one of those numbered locations within 6 squares. You're not encountering anything. You're kind of out of luck. It's empty, which is, on the one hand, it's fine if you're camping at things, you're not getting any random encounters. So you can camp. Essentially, if you can camp outside those enclosed areas with impunity, and you're fine, which is good because you can't. The keep and the caves of chaos are far enough away that you can't really get there. I mean, their travel distances are, are pretty different than expert. So really, it was like 8 hours walk, at least the way I was calculating, and I could have been wrong. But basically, to this hill region from the keep was pretty much a day, and it was another kind of half day or more to the caves, which was good because they couldn't just run all the way back to the keep, and because they could camp out here with impunity, they could do okay, but they just couldn't resupply and everything super quick. So even though in miles everything's super close, using the travel rules that you get, there is a fair amount of distance. They just don't give you by the book much to fill in those distances with. And I didn't really try to fill in with content. I was like, oh yeah, after half a day, I think were traveling or hitting maybe more of this area. Okay, but you're traveling like 6 hours, you get over here, great, another, all right, great. And then I was just doing that because there's nothing for them to find anyway. Now, the other issue I ran into was, well, how obvious do I want to make the Caves of Chaos to them? And this is where I struggled a little bit because they did something which I thought was smart, which was they wanted to come up to this hill and look out, right? Go to the top of the hill, look out. What do we with our elf eyes see? And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's a really good plan. I like it. But I'm also thinking to myself, these caves are supposed to be kind of hard to find. If it's that easy, if it's 100 smoke things rising up from here out of the box canyon where the caves are, well, like then you just end up in this little bit of a trap, right? Well, if it's all you had to do is go to the top of this hill and you'd see the caves, then how secret were the caves to begin with? It's like a little bit like you've boxed yourself in. You've sort of trapped yourself. On the one hand, you're going, okay, that's a good plan. On the other hand, it's like, well, wait a minute. The kind of the upshot of this thing is nobody knows who these silly caves are. So can it be so simple? Just nobody went up a hill? Like it can't be that, right? It's one of those things like it can't be that. But then I felt bad saying like, nah, you don't see anything. I mean, to me, on a does it make sense? Say geographically, to me it did, because you have a hill is kind of big. This is all like a big hill ridge line and all these trees and stuff, and then this is this little box canyon here. You don't really have line of sight to really see there's a gap. Like, to me it made perfect sense how, okay, unless smoke was rising up out of holes, which, look, that could also be very true, but again, for the hidden part, I felt like that can't be, it just can't be that easy to just look out and see the smoke rising. Like, that seems silly. But I felt like, okay, I'm not really, they're on top of the hill, they're looking out, they're sort of blocked. But it also felt, that's also made me realize is there's not a good way. Like, what can I give them? I don't want that to spend them, especially because and here's the other thing, right? You're over on this side of the map. You're named, these numbered locations are all down. They're all kind of out of your way. And if you're the party and I think that the caves are basically in this quadrant of the map, basically this 2/3 of the map up here, you have no reason to suddenly go, let's dip down south. Let's go look at those swamps, which is also where you're looking for caves, swamps, probably not going to find a bunch of caves there. So kind of makes sense. We're looking towards the hilly area with lots of rising elevations, probably where we're going to find more caves, right? Rock faces of caves and stuff like that. So it's kind of one of those things you go, oh yeah, that's kind of, that's a problem. So what they ended up doing was, I was like, yeah, you don't really see anything. It's just, there's a lot of, undulating, rising elevation, and it's covered in this really thick growth of trees, where it's really, if there's anything in there, you can't see it from here. It's just not, you're not high enough. I mean, this hill is not that high also. Like, okay. So then they started coming around and they're like, all right, let's go north. And they just ended up kind of coming from the hill, coming north and starting to poke around in here. And then they were looking for trails. Like, are they trails? And this is where I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to give it to them. In a sense, they're looking for trails. That to me is the right thing to be looking for. And I said, first they're finding game trails, but then as they follow them in, and I was saying, yeah, these trails are sort of following the contours of these woods. Then you start to see trails of sort of creatures, critters and stuff. And those creatures are of different types. So they start to see different prints. So it starts off being game trail. Then they see, and I was like, yeah, maybe you think they were kind of camouflaging it, which made sense to me anyway. And now you're seeing different humanoid tracks, and they're different ones. And then they got to the box canyon where the caves are at. Dungeon Master Masterclass. Hey, Dungeon Master Masterclass says, if a group asked me to DM with no warning, I don't think I could play a module on the fly. I just have to improv. Well, I think think one of the things what you're doing, or what I was doing with this, is I was using this as a basis to kind of improv. I mean, I was using stuff, but I did a lot of improv. There was a lot of improv bits, which will be incoming, not so much in the overall stuff, but in some of the details. I think it was good because I had things like a dungeon map that I could use, and I knew which creatures were where, basically. And and I just know I just know, I don't have this module memorized by any stretch of the imagination, but I know, like, okay, I know, okay, there's goblins, and I know there's the hobgoblins are near there, and I know the ogre, and I kind of know some of the layout close up. I can kind of run with it a bit, but I hear you. It is. I often think it's much easier for me to run a game that I'm making it myself, whether it's improv or whether I've prepped myself, than it is to run a module. But I think with a module like this, you've been sitting in the back of your brain for a long time, and you know it in a sense, even if a lot of the details, like I couldn't tell you who's in all those caves, but I kind of like, oh yeah, this is sort of what's going on and whatever. It worked out okay. Krago says they think it's fun once you get to the dungeon. Yeah, the dungeon makes it a bit easier. So they get to the caves. Where's the caves? And let's see. Nope, that's going the wrong way. Am I going the wrong way? Where's the caves? Here we go. Okay. So they get to the caves. And here's where their spells came in key. I don't know why, but every time I've run this, the group's always beeline for this first goblin caves, which again works for me because that's the part that, since I've run it in the past couple of years, and this is where the party got into the mix. Had them starting there meant that I was in a more comfortable spot of the dungeon than if they'd gone to over here to A or something where I'd have to kind of get up, go back further in my memory banks and do more reading. So they get in here. It's pretty standard. It's like they do an interesting thing here where it's every 10 feet you move, there's a 1 in 6 chance of running into a goblin patrol. But they sell you essentially, basically, instead of, you don't roll every 10 feet. What you do is every 30 feet roll, and there's a 50% chance of a goblin patrol. So they come in, they get in this part here. They started moving in this direction. I rolled, and actually they were checking out in here, and I rolled Goblin Patrol. So first they turned off their torch, which is actually was smart. And I haven't thought about really in full how to handle the demi-humans and light, by the old, and I don't remember what they said in here what you're supposed to do, but in the white box and things, creatures who were denizens of the dungeon didn't need light, but if they're associated with the player characters, they did. So in playing in those rules, under those assumptions, the goblins don't need light, so they're just running around in the dark, and the human, the party members need light. I tend to think that's a little. It ends up being, again, it ends up, I think, especially in a more modern sense, it makes dungeon crawling a little bit weird, because you would think, well, if you're just running around with a torch and nobody else has torches, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb. Whereas if other creatures who you'd think need light, then at least you can blend in there. So I kind of changed it up and started going with light. But that first encounter, they were running around, and I didn't give them a light source. In any case, the party dropped their light, and there was this moment where they were thinking, like, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to move out? And I was telling them, like, you can't do anything in the dark. Like, you're in the dark. You're fumbling, stumbling around. So you're going to have to turn on this light and then hope that the goblins have moved on, or they don't see you or something. So they turn on the light, and I think I rolled for surprise, and nobody was surprised, but the party went initiative, and they slept the goblins. Boom, goblins go down. And then there was some really good discussion over what to do with the goblins. One brother's like, yeah, we drag them into this alcove area here, and then we kill them. Like, easy peasy, done. The other brother was like, no, we should just keep them knocked out, whatever. And we had a good discussion, turned into a good discussion about it, because I was saying, listen, you can do whatever you want to do, and I'm not saying you should kill them, whatever, but you should have a plan. Because here I'm in my friendly mode, where I'm trying to explain that if they just keep them there and they want to, say, interrogate them, but they don't take precautions, well, the goblins aren't suddenly going to love them because they didn't kill them. And I said, imagine somebody breaks into your house and they knock you out, but they don't murder you, and you wake up and they're looking at you. You're probably not suddenly going to love the burglar because they didn't kill you. How are you going to react? And that's kind of how these goblins would probably react if you did that. So if you were going to interrogate them, you probably want to think about things about what they could possibly do, and making sure that they they don't have the freedom to do whatever they want. I was trying to get them to think about it, like, do you tie them up? Do you gag them? What, just to make them think about, like, hey, if you just, you knock them out, yeah, they didn't kill them, but you're in their home and you did beat them up and you're not supposed to be there. So they killed them. Oh, and this is just some, at this point, warmish water for the working man. So they killed the goblins, dragged them over to the alcove, which I think was smart, killed them, looted them for a few silver, took some spears. Coming around this corner again, they see that there are guards posted here at 17. And this, I was a little bit easy on them in the distances, because probably looking at this should have been a harder encounter, but whatever, I let them go. So they get here, there's some guards posted here. I think I said something like, even though the book says the exact opposite, I said, like, well, because I was trying to make up for the fact that the guards were close enough that they probably should have seen and heard someone was going on, but didn't. So I was like, they're not paying too much attention. So we rolled again for initiative and surprise. Again, neither one is surprised. They won initiative again, and they cast charm. Both the magic user and the elf cast charm, and both succeeded. So these two goblins suddenly left their guard post and were following the and came to join the party. And this is when the thing that may have set this game at least in our family playing, the little history we have, into essentially immortalized it, was I asked them, I said, like, well, each one of you has charmed one of the goblins. So I said, why don't you go ahead and name your goblins? So White Lightning named their goblin Lightning Jr. Now this is kind of funny because that character can't actually speak goblin. So there's a whole bunch of stuff where he can't really directly communicate with his goblin. They're trying to figure it out. And then Xerxes, who does speak goblin, has been sort of acts as an intermediary, but whatever. Okay, so he's got Lightning Jr. Xerxes decides to name his goblin Priddy, Priddy. And this sends White Lightning's player into a fit of laughing that probably took a half an hour, and it was still going. Just the Priddy the goblin, and was it juvenile, Priddy, Pretty versus Priddy? Was that Priddy's basically the long and short of it? Yes, it was. It didn't make it not hilarious to them. We are all men over the age of 50, and this was a source of mirth, particularly to him. And we were all kind of laughing because he's laughing, and he's like, but like he could not get over Priddy the goblin. So of course, from this point on, Priddy kind of became the secondary star of the show, where when they would run into goblins and stuff, they would all recognize Priddy and be asking Priddy things like, Priddy, what's going on? Like, the Priddy kind of became as like their spokesperson amongst the goblins. So later on, they ended up leaving after this and then going to rest and do whatever. And so they were kind of talking, and again, just the fact that his name is Priddy was causing White Lightning to just laugh every time it was coming up. And then of course I'm trying to kind of egg it on, right? That's just my job. Is when something like that presents itself, you just gotta kind of run with it. So then I'm, then they came back the next day, and they saw the guards on the other side, and those guards are talking to Priddy, and they're like, Priddy, who are these guys with you? And Priddy's trying to explain, oh, these are my friends and whatever. So every time like goblins would show up, they would address Priddy. Like Priddy became a thing. And then what I thought was even funnier is then people at the keep would somehow know who Priddy is, which to me makes sense. If they know all these rumors, maybe they were Priddy. So they would go. I think at one point they went to get they wanted to get some new weapons or rations, and they go to the dry goods guy, and the dry goods guy whispers like, tell Priddy I love him, tell Priddy I miss him. And so Priddy kind of became the star of the program, which was a lot of fun. So Priddy the goblin, who will live in the annals of the shared memories, I think, forever, was born out of these charmed goblins. Another thing they did was, and they just kept having luck. Like sleep, they're rolling well for sleep, because sleep basically is, it's automatic, other than you just have to roll for rolling for how many hit dice get turned for these goblins and stuff, or get slept. And they've been rolling well enough that none of the goblins they've been winning initiatives. So they've been going first most of the time. And even the couple times they didn't they didn't win initiative, I wasn't able to really make them pay for not hitting initiative. So they were kind of leaving, but every time they left, So to Masterclass's thing about the improv and what I was saying, I improv a bit was when they would leave and spend a day or two away and then come back, I would be fortifying. Like the next time they came, there was a pit with a little ramp across it in front of the door. But before that they could pull the ramp in and get away, they were slept. And to the kind of the Black Pearl idea, no one's been able to survive the sleeping and get away. So, this is one of the things where I think someone was saying, well, if the party keeps sleeping them, then I'm going to have them do X, Y, or Z. And I'm fine with that. And I agree with that. But I have to have a reason. Somebody's got to actually hightail it out of there and say, those guys are casting sleep on us or do something. Otherwise, nobody knows. They put them to sleep, slit their throats. They came in. I had another encounter check, but it was just one goblin came running over, again, starts talking to Priddy. Priddy, who are those guys? But now the goblins are kind of aware, like, Priddy, we know you brought some guys with you, and we've heard about that, and you got to get them out of here, make them leave, whatever. And they just killed that goblin. Now they got down here, and I rolled for the elf and secret door thing, and it worked. So the elves came in here, and here's just where I thought, like, oh, I'm going to get them. And I'm not trying to maliciously get after them. I'm just trying to. I want them to earn. And they've been getting away with a lot. So I'm like, oh, there are ogres in here, and I was thinking, like, if they goes wrong with the ogre, like that could be it. That could be it. And they were kind of fiddle faddling around the door. They send Priddy in. Priddy starts talking to the ogre. I was like, Priddy, what are you doing here? And the ogre senses that Priddy's talking to someone else. So the ogre gets up and it's like, he starts coming over. They're still kind of can't get their act together. We roll initiative. The ogre wins. I think might have been aims for Xerxes, and I whiffed. I rolled a 2. I was like, woof, there it was. And then charm, and I missed my save. And now they've got Oscar the Ogre. So now they've got a band they basically filled out a full party. They've got, Priddy the Goblin, Lightning Jr. the Goblin, and Oscar the Ogre. And then they went back to town, and they had the goblins and the ogre kind of hang out outside of town. They bought a bunch more rations. They heard the story. No, they heard they got another rumor, which was that there's some part in the southern places filled with magic armor, which got them all hyped up. Like, ooh, we got to go search more of the southern area because there might be magic armor buried somewhere there. That's a false rumor. They don't know that yet. And then they came back, and then we were kind of getting ready for dinner and stuff. So we kind of paused it there. But the other thing is, no, sorry, but before we paused it, I had the hobgoblins take over. So the first day, the goblins had tried to fortify, failed. They killed a bunch more goblins. And then the next time when they were coming back, hobgoblins from this area here had come down and taken over and were kind of having fun at the goblins' expense over here. And they killed those hobgoblins and then were trying to now persuade these non-combatant goblins, essentially, that they were free now and it's interesting because it's kind of changing their outlook on what they're going to do. And now they kind of feel like they're sort of goblin liberators, because I'm not playing the goblins like they're just, orcs in Lord of the Rings. So they have personalities. There are non-combatant goblins. The goblins, once the hobgoblins took over and just kind of, essentially torturing them for sport, they seem kind of sad and pathetic, and they wanted to kind of rescue them. So it's changed. The complexion is changing, but we kind of had to end it after there. Dungeon Master Masterclass asked what level are they. I started them out at 3rd. So they had, each one has a charm, a sleep. No, sorry. White Lightning, the magic user, has charm and sleep and mirror image. And Xerxes the elf. So sorry, Xerxes is actually 2nd level because I thought it wouldn't be fair. So what I did was, instead of just giving them 3rd level, I looked at how much it would take the magic user to go up the 3rd, and then I applied it. So Xerxes is 2nd level elf. White Lightning's a 3rd level magic user because that's just how the XP. Because I just said you have 5,000 XP, and it's like, okay, that's where it's gonna land. So they each have a charm. Xerxes the elf also has magic missile, and White Lightning has, in addition to charm, sleep and mirror image. Dungeon Master Masterclass says the Charmed Ogre at level 3 is still a pretty big deal. That's a really big deal. And they stay. And I'll have to check. I will have to remember next time we play, which will be not for months. I'll have to check on the goblins because it'll be getting close to a week for them. But the ogre, it's like a month or something that they stay before they get a save. It's not even that it's the funny thing with charm and in BX is it's not that it wears off after a week. They get a save after a week. So the ogre will get a save after a month and 200 charms. So they get to be charmed for quite a while. I mean, they could literally be charmed for their lifetimes, or they could snap out of it next time. Now, I think the big takeaway was, one, everyone had a really good time. Everyone had a fun time. In fact, they had so much of a fun time that next time the three of us get together, well, we originally planned these kind of things. So this is the second or third one of these we've done where we've kind of gotten together and hung out for a weekend. And we can't do it all the time because me and one of the cousins, my one cousin lives in Boston and I live here in New York City. So we can kind of get together, schedules permitting, but it's not a big deal. My other cousin lives in Texas. So him coming down is kind of the barrier to all three of us getting together. When we usually do it, we've been getting into playing board games, things like that, and just kind of hanging out. So we play a lot of board games. But now D&D is, if it holds up and their feelings remain the same, their resolve basically they just want to play D&D next time. Like, forget the board games. They just want to do D&D for the whole weekend. So that'll be really fun if we get to do kind of a D&D weekend. But definitely the fires of playing D&D has been rekindled for them in a big way. Priddy the Goblin has become an instant legend. They've got an ogre. They've got some interesting things they want to do. I tried to impress upon them, basically, do what you want. Like I told them, this is what the keep wants. The keep wants basically this place, ripped apart. But that doesn't mean you have to do that. It's like, that's just what the keep wants. Do what you want. But I want them to be sure, just know from the geopolitical standpoint, like this is kind of the goal of the keep is not whatever. Yeah, family D&D, it is nice. And maybe I could get my daughter to play next time, maybe, if they want. Or it might just be something that the three of us do. But it was a lot of fun. Definitely was not expected, wasn't planning for it. I'm just glad I had dice and stuff up there that I could have at the ready. I think from just a running standpoint, like this layout, it's old. I'm not gonna hold it against them because it's old. It definitely could use, if I was gonna redo Keep on the Borderlands, I would definitely try to organize things a little bit differently. I think if you're running, I guess I could do something, maybe a separate video on, hey, having now run some Keep on the Borderlands, here's some things I might do to make it a little easier. I would have some more encounters, not necessarily potentially hostile ones, but put some people on the roads. Maybe there are even some refugees. Have some wreckage of things up here. You want to put more cues and clues on the Caves of Chaos. You still got to try to figure out, do they really not know where the caves are? Or is it just that no one's been able to kind of get over there and back? Like, yeah, they're over there, but we're being repulsed. Like they're losing. It almost as if you were to put this in a highlighter and put like kind of where are the borders, right? That the caves are at a point where they're stretching their boundaries. So they were, for some long time, they were hidden, and now they're sort of taking off. So it's like darkness is descending slowly upon the keep, where now things are happening. Maybe even you could even have something like what they do in Lord of the Rings, where the Mount Doom, right? Sauron has Mount Doom erupt and cover the lands in this kind of these clouds of ash that sort of extend this darkness out. Something that just gives you some more reasoning, but also gives you more clues, because you really, as a GM, you really need to come up with the clues, or of course you could say, hey, your party does something clever. You're like, okay, that leads you, but they don't really give you a lot of support for, there's really no support for what are the monsters doing. They really are just sitting in the caves. And if they're just sitting in the caves, then how are you supposed to figure out what they're doing if they're not coming out? Whereas if they're more an active force, they're raiding, they're pillaging, maybe there's some farms out here and now they're burning. There's something that can be both opportunities to do things other than just wander around until you kind of bump into the keep, and also things to do. You can introduce people. If there was a village here, then they probably survivors saw where they came from, at least in general, and you could have some NPCs in there. Yeah, merchants are being abducted, and some people obviously are getting away. There could be some things. Maybe some people do know where the where the caves are, but maybe they're not telling, or they want some incentive to tell you. They want a little moolah, so you got to grease the wheels that way. And of course, if you're a lowly adventurer, you probably don't have the moolah to do that. So now it becomes, we can either find it ourselves, or we got to find something that this person wants, or we have to get some gold. So you can. There are other, I think now we'd look at it and we'd want to add a bunch more levers of what can we actually, what can we pull here? What can we do to put some things out here, to kind of tie it all together a bit more? But you know what? We played it pretty much as is. We just winged it. Just don't worry about what you're getting wrong. We had a blast with it. I had a lot of fun running it. They had a lot of fun playing it. And yeah, they look for trails. You go, yeah, there must be a trail, right? I looked at it and said, you know what? I don't know how they're supposed to find the caves. It's unclear, other than, like I said, just if they just started going square by square in some kind of grid search. I don't know how they're going to find it. So they came up with something, and I just said, yeah. And I didn't make them roll for it. I was like, roll under. Like, no, okay, you find it. Because ultimately you need to get them to the caves. That's where everyone wants to go. That's where they know they're supposed to be finding caves. So I'm not going to, because what you don't want to do is have them roll for, this is that thing where, okay, they need to get to the caves, and then I have them roll to see if they can find the way to the caves, and they don't make the roll. Now they had a good idea. Now they got to come up with another good idea. What if they can't? What if they just get frustrated and they're saying, like, I don't know then. I don't know where these caves are. Like, what if no tracks? Like, I don't know. Or they just go like, I do it again. And you don't want to be that thing where you're doing it again. Croco says, to be honest, I kind of like making that stuff up. Croco, I think a lot of people, I don't have a problem with it, but I do think, to the point of, this is the thing you're buying to help you, it's nice to have that support, because you can always make up your own thing. That's the thing, is you can always make up your own thing. But I think a lot of the times, I really think that, to me, like, these modules are like, here's a framework for stuff, so that if you can't think of anything better, you have this to fall back. It's like, here's our fallback for you. Here's a template. Here's this backdrop. Here's a backstop for you. And so if you don't have any ideas, here's something for you to do. If you have a better idea, you can always insert it on top. The man says, I think that happens way too much in some games. Role perception is a waste of time. The clues are there to be given. Yeah, totally. And I don't mind. I mean, I don't really like role perception, but if I had it, that would be like for the extra part. Here's something extra. Maybe the tracks are leading you in a trap, and somehow you sense that from the perception, or you get some other thing. It's an extra bit. So I don't like perception, but if I was going to use something like that, it would be like, here's the extra bit. Either extra lore, which sometimes can be fun, even if it's not, whatever, it's fun. Or, hey, you tracks and you roll extra. Maybe you don't just get tracks, you get the animal, or you get the exact species, or you get some extra detail. But at a certain point, if you're playing this to do the thing, you don't want to do things to do the thing. Dungeon Masterclass says, I'm living the dream. Basically, everywhere I go, I'm thinking, I wish someone would come up to me and ask me to DM some D&D. Well, this is a special case. I don't think it's going to happen too often, where someone's going to have a 40-year-old box of D&D and say, do you know what we can do with this? But it was very funny, because the answer happened to be, yes, I know exactly what to do with this, and we can do it, basically right now. Like, yes, I do know what to do with this. So that was a very funny coincidence, and I'm just hoping that they, like, I'll keep everybody. I'll when I get more. It'll be interesting when we get more distance on this. I'll keep everyone up to speed on how more sessions, if they materialize. But it seems like they want to keep going, which is great. And I like the fact that their experience with the goblins is now opening them up to, like, other things they could do. Right? They are already thinking about things that are not on the tin, which is, well, maybe we don't want to destroy everything. Maybe we want to help them. These guys seem sad. They've charmed. Some of them seem okay. Maybe they can get them onto their side. Maybe they can't. I don't know. We'll roll some dice. We'll roll some reactions. We'll roll some things. I already told them. I said, your reception is going to a little bit mixed, because yes, you did save them the hobgoblins, but the only reason the hobgoblins are here are because you've been going through and you've made them vulnerable to the hobgoblins. So you were both the predator and the savior. So it's you got them kind of feeling weird about you a bit. So we got that. All right, folks. I I have to do some One Ring, so I'm going to be finishing up. I can't. This is, I guess, in the category of other business. I got to finish up some One Ring. I'm going to be running to finish the One Ring scenario that I've run over the past couple sessions tonight. I don't have too much to do. Another player, a player's coming back, so we have another player. I got to kind of. I think I know how to integrate them. Anyway, I'm just saying I might stream on the other channel, on the Prep and Play channel, if I do work on some One Ring this afternoon. We'll see. But other than that, like I said, I'm going to get to digitizing some of the stuff in that box. Oh, I forgot. Before I go, let's look at Lightning. I totally forgot I had this. Before I go, let us look at White Lightning's forebear, Lightning, who's, if this is to be believed, was generated. I'm going to go to a single sheet for this. View. There we go. From November 13, 1981. And this is going to need some insights. This is going to be some insight in kind of the. I'm going to say this character is probably not tournament legal. Let's just say that. So 11/13/81, name's Lightning. They're a magic user, level 11. Their alignment is lawful evil, no religion. Interesting, they have these boxes here. Their base move they didn't fill in. One for listening. I don't know. I wonder what vision. I have to go back to AD&E and look at these because I don't know what vision's supposed to be. But anyway, their character sketch is Lightning, along with an arrow, sword, and some kind of staff. Is that an ankh? An ankh or a staff with a crook? Maybe. So now we're going to get into where the shenanigans might be beginning. Let's take a look at these ability scores. Strength 17, Intelligence 18, Wisdom 12, Dex 13, Constitution 15, Charisma 9. Now this one looks like it got written over. I can't tell. Oh no, that looks like just a smaller 8 that maybe they made into a bigger 8. Yeah, I'm suspicious. I'm a little suspicious on that 18. And this is when I'm able to get some of the other characters out here, you'll see this trend of what looked to be inflated ability scores, which was not out of place in these games. Like I don't know what people's experiences are. Sometimes I think maybe they look at through the lens of the OSR with the kind of you'll 3d6 down the line, or even 46 drop lowest, or even whatever matrices are in AD&D. Like there are a lot of these kind of shenanigans going on. Mess says, I think they could use Wish to raise skills, and they have a staff of power. Yeah, they got a lot. Yes, they do. I like we're just seeing this in a segment of time, right? So we don't know, but like I said, you look at some of the other characters that will come up, and I don't know if they were just putting whatever stats they felt were appropriate, but they tended to seem a little bit extreme. Anyhow, yes, they do have a +2 staff of power and a +1 ring of protection. Let's see, no psionics going on. So they've got, so here they have some of their other weapons. They have a silver dagger, a dagger +2, a staff +2, which is probably their staff of power, which is also a +2 weapon. And I don't know, I'd have to go back and look at staff of power. I don't know if staff of power has a bonus, but theirs apparently, whether by the book it is or not, is also a +2 gives you +2. And they also had a dagger +1. They've got their spells known: magic missile, shield, hold portal, protection from evil, mirror image, invisibility, web, fireball, hold monster, cloud kill, polymorph others, wall of fire, wall of ice. I mean, they got to have lightning bolt, spell magic, and reincarnation. The mess says psionics would have been chef's kiss. Yes. If they'd had some crazy psionicism, that would have been very good. Yeah, that would have been like or the word. Now, I'm guessing their saving throws are kind of by the book, 5, 6, 5, 8, 5. I mean, they are level 11. I'd have to look at the book. It'd be good to look. I mean, at some point, I'm going to compare these to what the book says because I'm curious about those two. What we got, and then we get on to their possessions. They got a silver dagger. It's in their waist. This is kind of fun because they really did kind of go in as the 30 gold piece value, I guess. They have some rations, 6 daggers. I guess a skin, a water skin. Looks like torches, a helmet. A helmet. See, you're a magic user, right? How are you wearing a helmet? There's a little shenanigans. They got a mirror, some wolfsbane, some spikes, and a staff in hand. And I do like they have written out. I mean, some of them they just have the value and stuff and how much, because you don't need to really worry about where your rations are, things like that. But 6 daggers is good. Encumbrance plus 500 strength advantage. I don't know. I don't know. They're carrying 342. I'm not even going to ask if that's correct or not. Now, you get into magic items. I don't even know what to say. That they're looking like, so that looks like they have, all right, hold on a minute here. Bracers of defense. Can they wear bracers? I don't think you can wear bracers of defense. Or can you? Is that one of the few things magic items of armor that a wizard can wear? I'm going to say my first impulse is that's wrong, but maybe they house ruled it that you could. I don't know. They also have a talisman of Zaggy. Is that based on Gygax? I don't know. That gives them some kind of trap check. Okay, anyone can wear braces. All right, so they're safe with the bracers. They have 2 daggers plus 2, a staff of power with 11 charges, a ring of 27 charges from staff of power, and they've got 2 of them, at least written down here. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to say that that's some kind of impossible thing, but I feel like you're stretching things a little bit there, Lightning. Yeah. Oh my God, they got. Is this one set of? Hold on a minute. So okay, we're in the thousands. Where is there millions? So they are the first. I can say the first. They got 344 billion gold. According to this wealth number, 344 billion gold. 11,600. This has got to be value. They got them in 2 columns. So I don't know if there's 2 gems that have that or how that's set up. Oh, maybe they're not the same number, because here they say, oh, that's experience points. That's how many they have currently. So they have 369,605 current experience points. And they got some more. And he says they found, this is Elon Musk's character. How did you know? Dungeon Master Masterclass said they need some kind of special pack to organize all their staffs of power. Yeah, that's what they're using the staff of power to get more staffs of power. I can only imagine. And then they have this debts owed or obligations, which is a really cool thing that we need in more character sheets, which says Confucius will die sooner or later. I don't know who Confucius is, and I can only hope that did come to pass. But that is, I guess that's got to be some kind of enemy, Confucius, which is a great name. And they will die. Sooner or later, Confucius will die. So now we get some little description for Lightning. 46 years old, but they look closer to 40. They've got unnatural aging due to a wish. They've got yellow hair and black eyes. They're male. They weigh 208 pounds, I'm guessing. They're tall and cool. What does he look like? He's 40, tall and cool. 5'7" in height. Mannerisms, picks nose while what does he do? While pooking? What is going on? Pocking? I don't even know what that means. But yeah, I guess he picks his nose, doing some nose picking. Oh, he hates Mr. Confucius and Dr. Junior. Oh, these are some great names. Mr. Confucius and Dr. Junior are on his enemies list. Oh yeah, here he is, his compatriots. Coral Poon, what's that? Poontang? Poon? It's got to be Poontang, which is, look, teenagers, okay? I'm just saying. Coral Poontang, the elf, who's level 10, and Zur, the cleric, who's level 7. I do like this too. You have your compatriots. That's cool. And then, what's this? Locales. I can't really read that. So there's a keep castle that's in Adventura partner. I don't know. And there's a castle. All right. He's got notes, make magic items. I mean, maybe that's what he's doing. He's making staffs of power. That's his business. It was definitely the 80s. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. And then he's got a will, which I also like. I got to look up this character sheet. This is great. I, Lightning, do hereby give Carol or Coral or Carol Poontang all my worldly items. So there you go. He's got his will. That is the end of the sheet. That is 1981, Lightning the Elf. And I believe in 1981, let's see if I'm thinking, I got to think back from when, let's see, I was born, let's see. So he's maybe 13 years old, 14 years old. So I think this is a 14-year-old. So this is, this is. I mean, look, this is what you expect, pretty much. 14-year-old mind at work, 1981. Yeah, the paper is great. It would be great to find someone. I need to make some cool character sheets with a bunch of stuff on it, and print them on some colored paper with the 3-hole punch, which is nice because you're keeping your binder. Hey, Brian Smith. Brian says crazy there. Will says the exact same thing. Everyone should be giving everything to Carol Poontang. I believe it is legally binding for Lightning. And look, you can keep him from using up more charge of those staffs of power. You're going to get a pretty good haul. I mean, not to mention the fact that he has over 344 billion gold by that count. I mean, this has got to be, he's got to have, this can't, I mean, I have to imagine this can't be right only because his experience would be way higher unless he's been doing this through other means, because these numbers do not add up unless they've been doing domain level stuff. I mean, he's level 11. So maybe they're doing domain stuff and this is kind of a domain value. Unfortunately, there's nothing about this on the sheet. Probably a missed opportunity to have some kind of domain management. He's definitely a 1%er. Absolutely. Yeah, black eyes, man. Yellow hair, not blonde, yellow, black eyes. General appearance, tall and cool. But, you're hanging around Mr. Confucius or Dr. Junior. Mr. Confucius or Dr. Junior, or is that or Junior? Confucius, I'm going to say that's Dr. Junior, but, there's some of this, it's handwriting. Who knows? The Poontang family is definitely cleaning up without much investment in time. They hitched their horse to the right wagon. All right, folks, so there's a quick look at Lightning, the magic user from 1981 AD&D. I'll have more bits, and I can't wait to really delve into the map and key and other stuff in the box, but I'm going to digitize it at Studio B, and then I'll try to, we'll see what we can do with this stuff. It'll be fun. Yes, and this is campaign 2. Absolutely. This is not his first rodeo. I don't know if Lightning is a survivor of campaign 1, but this is campaign 2. Brian says this would be really fun to just commission somebody that does D&D character portraits and hang them these. Oh yeah, that would be hilarious. Yeah, I'll have to say that might be a good idea, Brian. I'll have to take that, see if I can find somebody to work with to do that. All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed this this tale of the new tales of Xerxes and White Lightning, and then looking back at White Lightning's ancestor, the original Lightning from 1981. Hopefully there will be more. There will be more. Hey, Gary. All right, folks. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great rest of your day or night. Whenever you're watching or listening to these, I'll try to make an itch project or something that I'll put all this stuff so people can take a look at them in detail. That'll be for later when I can get a more complete accounting and inventory done. All right, folks. Game on. Talk to you later. Bye now.